Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
And today we're talking about Iron Man 3, released in 2013, directed by Shane Black, written by Drew Pearce and Shane Black, and starring Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, Guy Pearce, Rebecca Hall, Jon Favreau, James Badgedale, William Sadler, and Ben Kingsley, amongst a few other people. This was movie number 1 of Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This was the first movie released after 2012's The Avengers. And it's hard to believe this movie's already 7 years old. But I guess, if you look at... This was really only, the 6th Marvel movie? And now we've had 22, 23,
That's
something like that.
Insane.
I know. Marvel has been...
Yeah, it's really crazy how early they did the third movie in the Iron Man series.
Mm-hmm. First movie after Avengers. And Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Tony, is suffering from anxiety attacks, which I thought was an interesting way to go with him, kind of...
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I was thinking this is the one where he had the alcoholic, or at least they mentioned it. Was that in the second one?
Yeah, in the second one, he's kind of he's at the party and he's kind of drunk and stuff like that, and he's being a little irresponsible with his Iron Man suit and stuff. They don't really go into it too much in this movie at all, really.
Yeah, no, they don't. Yeah, like you said, anxiety attacks, and you thought it was interesting.
Well, I just thought it was interesting that they did that. That they had him kind of suffering almost PTSD kind of from the events of the Avengers,
right?
Where he just couldn't sleep, and when he did sleep, he had nightmares, and he was hit with anxiety attacks, kind of randomly, or when people brought up the events of the Avengers and stuff.
And that threw me off, like when those two kids were asking for his autograph, and like the kid whispers in his ear, "How did you get out of the wormhole?"
Yeah.
And then that's what triggers it. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And I also wasn't even sure if the kid actually said that, or if it was just some random thing. Cause like I said, I didn't know what he was talking about. So it just was so weird. But then I think, what's the other kid's name?
The actual kid from the movie,
yes.
Harley.
Is that his name?
Harley, yeah.
Harley. He mentions something about it too, doesn't he?
He does. Well, he keeps asking him questions, and he makes him have another anxiety attack, basically. He's telling the kid to shut up.
So that's when I was like, oh, okay. So they're referring to when the aliens came in Avengers.
Right, yes.
He might have even made some kind of comment about it. Yeah, I thought it was interesting too, and I thought it was a neat little, conflict to throw for Tony to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. This movie opens up. There's something kind of interesting with this movie. It starts off in black with some voiceover from Tony, and you see the suits exploding. Couple of the Iron Man suits kind of explode from, I assume it might be from when the Mandarin is attacking Tony's house. I don't know. It's just a clip of the suits they're in their display cases, and the display cases explode. But the voiceover is kind of funny to me because it's very similar, if I recall correctly, of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. You ever seen that movie?
No. That
is a movie also directed by Shane Black. It's a very good movie. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's a.
Is that George Clooney?
No, it's Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr.
Okay.
And it starts off, if I recall correctly, it starts off with Robert Downey Jr. doing a voiceover and kind of getting sidetracked and being like, let me start over. So I don't know if that was like an homage to that movie, or if maybe Shane Black just kind of likes to do that kind of thing in the beginning of his movies. I don't know.
Right. Interesting.
Shane Black is also the writer of the first Lethal Weapon movie. I
which
think you
I have
might.
never seen.
You've never seen Lethal Weapon?
I haven't seen any of the Lethal Weapons.
Wow, they're good. They're good movies.
That's
Um,
that's what I hear. I mean, there are four of them,
um,
or there are five.
no, there's only four. I think they were talking about making a fifth one.
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to happen or not. There was a TV show too, but yeah, he wrote the first one, and I think he had a story for the second one, or a story credit, and he might have a writing credit for the second one. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But I know he's also a credited screenwriter on Last Action Hero. He was also an actor in Predator, and
One
few
of the
other things.
soldiers?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, he must be ripped.
I forget what his character's name is, but you'll have to keep an eye out for him whenever we watch that movie. But I know he's done some other stuff. I'm trying to think of. Oh, he did a movie called The Nice Guys recently with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. That was pretty good. I'm looking at his writing credits here. He did Lethal Weapon. He is credited for, according to this story, for Lethal Weapon 2. Last Action Hero, The Long Kiss Goodnight, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. But as far as directing, he's actually, Iron Man 3 was only his second movie. He did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and then Iron Man 3.
Wow. Wasn't
pretty
Kiss
good.
Kiss Bang Bang nominated for awards? Or am I
Uh,
imagining that?
Checking.
I think I'm thinking of Good Night and Good Luck, which was George Clooney.
That was George Clooney, yes.
Yeah.
Different movie. Yeah, I don't think this one, as far as I know, is kind of underrated. It's kind of one of those movies that kind of flew under the radar. Didn't get a whole lot of, I don't think did super well at the box office or anything, but is a really good movie. It's about I think it's been a while since I've seen it. It came out in 2005, and I know Val Kilmer plays a cop, and I think Robert Downey Jr. gets mistaken for an actor, and he I think he's like, I can't remember if he's a thief or what, but he ends up kind of barging in on an audition, and they love him, and they I think hire him for the part, and then hook him up with this cop to kind of follow along to learn how to be a cop for this movie or something, and they don't. It's one of those buddy cop type movies where Val Kilmer really doesn't like Robert Downey Jr.'s character and stuff like that.
Huh,
it's a really funny movie. Yeah. So yeah, Shane Black, pretty cool. The last movie he directed was The Predator, which I don't know if you saw that, but
I have not.
it was not great. I feel like that movie, I don't know for sure, but I feel like that there might be a story behind that one of studio interference or something, where the movie that we saw or the movie that came out was not necessarily the movie that he wanted to make, perhaps. I'm not sure. But yeah, Shane Black. And like I said, Robert Downey Jr. was in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, so I wondered if if Robert Downey Jr. kind of had a say in who they brought on to direct Iron Man 3, and Shane was maybe his choice. I don't know. But this was the first Iron Man movie not to be directed by Jon Favreau, even though he is back still is happy.
Right.
Which I imagine was probably pretty fun for Jon Favreau, not having to worry about directing and just getting to act and
Yeah.
having, not having the pressure of the actual filmmaking on your shoulders.
I wonder why that was. Like, did he choose to not direct it?
He did. He if I recall correctly, he accepted a directing gig with Disney doing, I thought it was supposed to be like Magic Kingdom or something, but I don't, maybe it was, when did The Jungle Book come out? I feel like The Jungle Book was several years later, but I think he chose to direct some other movie over Iron Man 3, which I don't know if that movie ever came out.
Well, did he do The Jungle Book?
He did direct The Jungle Book, yeah. And then he went
bet.
and directed The Lion King.
I bet that was it.
Probably.
Because you said you felt like it was way after, but I'm not sure.
Maybe it wasn't.
Anyway.
So this movie starts off in 1999 in Switzerland.
Right.
So one of the things I love about this scene is that we see Yinsen from the first film. We get that, he even says in Iron Man 1 that they met in Switzerland, I think, or something, and Robert Downey Jr. or Tony Stark says, I don't remember that. And Yinsen was like, well, if I had been that drunk, I don't think I'd remember it either, or something to that extent. And so it was kind of cool getting to see Yinsen meet Tony Stark there, and Tony Stark being kind of brushing him off and whatnot. Although I do wish, the way that he said it, if I had been that drunk, I wouldn't have been able to do whatever. I don't feel like Robert Downey Jr. necessarily plays the character in that scene as super drunk. He just seems like kind of his regular pre-Iron Man arrogant self. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I almost kind of wish he had played it a little bit more inebriated to an extent. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's a minor gripe.
And at the same time, we do get to see Guy Pearce.
We do see Guy Pearce as Aldrich Killian before he becomes the more suave Aldrich Killian
Yes,
of the
yes.
present.
He's quite a mess in 1999.
Yes, he is. Yes,
Just fumbling over himself and
he's got a cane and a limp too. Like
does he?
I think so. Like I think he's
Well, that makes sense because later on he wouldn't because
Right.
of the stuff. So
extremis,
Yeah.
right? We're also introduced to Maya Hansen, played by Rebecca Hall in the beginning, and we're basically teased as to where the extremis stuff comes from, and it's her whole project happening.
right,
and
the
everything.
plant.
Yep.
There was
Speaking of that, sorry, in the beginning, when the plant like blows up and Happy, jumps on Tony, that's all fine and everything. But the thing that really makes me laugh is Tony's like, I think we're good. I think we're fine. And he goes, that wasn't Y2K? He thought the explosion was going to be Y2K. That cracked me up.
I missed that. That's hilarious. There was a scene with her in it that I thought she looked very similar in like facial just appearance
Uh-huh.
to Scarlett Johansson. Like it was crazy. I was wondering if she got picked because of that.
I don't know.
Like, not that they're sitting there like, oh, you look like Scarlett Johansson, let's cast you. But the
Right.
fact that they cast Scarlett Johansson, obviously for, I mean, 'cause she's a terrible actress. No, I'm kidding. But, on top of her acting ability, they also probably are looking for certain, features, and Scarlett Johansson had them, and I'm wondering if they kind of brought that along to what's her name?
Rebecca Hall.
Rebecca Hall, yeah.
Maybe. I could kind of see what you're saying, and I could almost see them playing like sisters or something, in a movie. Rebecca Hall is one of those actresses that I saw a lot in movies over like a certain number of years, and then I haven't seen her in anything in a while. And I looked her up before we started recording. She's still working. She's just not. I just haven't seen any of the things she does. Like she was in Holmes and Watson, which is that Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly, Sherlock Holmes movie. It didn't do very well, but she was in that. But like the last movie that I think I've seen her in was the BFG, and that was 2016. So it's been like 4 years.
And that's CGI.
Yeah. Well, was the whole thing CGI? No, it's just
Oh, you're right. You're
just
right.
the BFG was CGI, and
right,
the
okay.
Giants or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, but she's going to be in Godzilla versus Kong, which is supposed to come out in 2021. So
that should be, at least at the beginning, a popular movie to see. We'll see if it's good.
yeah, I never saw the Godzilla King of
the Monsters.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
It was
Did you
all
see
right.
it?
Yeah. I can't really remember it honestly. But
I liked Kong Skull Island. Did you see that?
no, the last Kong movie I saw was Peter Jackson's.
Yeah. Kong Skull Island was actually pretty cool. I actually kind of liked that movie. And I saw the first Godzilla and kind of had the same feeling. I thought it was just it was a decent movie, but
you talking about with Bryan Cranston?
yeah.
So that movie, yeah, I agree. I don't know. Are we gonna do a podcast on it?
I don't know. I didn't write it down, but maybe we should.
I don't know
Maybe
how
we should
much
do Godzilla,
I don't know much I'd have to say about it.
King of the Monsters, Skull Island, and then this new one. I don't know. Yeah, I mean it's not a priority. You can say whatever you're going to say about it.
So Godzilla was a beautiful movie visually,
Mm-hmm.
but I noticed too they cover up a lot of stuff with fog and smoke just
Right.
to kind of make it look more realistic. But on top of how amazing, like, to have just the creatures and the shots of these gigantic creatures, the way they did them, it with all the stuff that was happening and the, destruction and apocalyptic measures, it just seemed bland. Like there
Yeah.
was something missing from it. Um, so that one's like, to me, when I watch Godzilla, I've seen it I think twice now, and I'm like, this looks and feels like it should be really good, but it's like I said, it's just missing something, and
Gotcha.
I don't know what it is.
So do you like King of the Monsters more than the first one?
No.
Oh, okay.
King of the Monsters, I felt like took out the quality that Godzilla had as far as aesthetically, pleasing and all that stuff. And it
Mm-hmm.
just was like, we're throwing monsters in here and they're fighting. And it didn't grab me as much as the original.
I gotcha. I was mild. I've never been a huge Godzilla fan, but I was mildly interested in seeing King of the Monsters just because it was directed by Michael Dougherty, who was one of the writers for Superman Returns.
Hmm.
And he may have written King of the Monsters too, or co-wrote it. I don't know, but I know he directed it. So yeah. Anyway, Rebecca Hall, she's going to be in Godzilla versus Kong or whatever I said it was called. So that'll be interesting to see her in. But yeah, she's Maya Hansen in this movie, and I also love Happy's look, like from 1999. He looks like he's trying to be John Travolta from Pulp Fiction. Is what I like. I feel like he's
Yes,
going for, but there.
that is very true. I didn't even think of that. You're right. That's hilarious.
So after the Switzerland thing, we see, Guy. He tells Guy Pearce he's going to meet him on the roof in 5 minutes, and he doesn't. He leaves him hanging. Has
And
no.
that just makes him want to destroy the world.
That's right. How all evil villains are created is when they're shunned by our heroes.
Yep.
So yeah, then we cut to present day.
Technically, I think the first time and only time that honestly has been done was in The Incredibles.
and it was done very well in The Incredibles
It was
too.
done
Actually,
so well.
yeah. I don't know. You're right. You might be right. I can't think of anything off the top of my head where, other than this movie, where that has happened. But The Incredibles, they did do a good job with The Incredibles.
Wait a minute. We've actually done a podcast on one. Batman Forever.
That's right. Yep, you're right. Edward Nygma. Yep. I feel like there's another one I'm just not thinking of because I know there was some movie that came out years ago where people were saying that it was basically just the plot of Incredibles and talking about how this character was just incredible. I can't remember what was the bad guy's name. I know it was Incrediboy. That's like what he wants to call himself in the beginning.
Syndrome.
Syndrome. Yeah. They were basically saying the villain was just Syndrome, but now I can't think of what it is. So I'm sure there's probably at least one more movie with that kind of plot line, but for some reason I'm blanking on it. But yeah, I don't think it was Iron Man 3. I don't think that was the movie where people were saying he was just Syndrome. But what do you think about Guy Pearce as Aldrich Killian?
So Guy Pearce is, I consider, one of the most underrated actors. Like he's in a lot of stuff. But I feel like even with that, he still hasn't been utilized as much as he should be. Like he was in Prometheus,
Right.
and Iron Man 3. But as far as having a big role like that, I don't see him. Maybe I'm just missing the movies, but
Yeah, I don't. He's he's not he doesn't do as many leading roles in mainstream movies
Yeah.
that you would think somebody of his caliber would be doing, but he
Yeah.
does a lot of kind of indie movies and stuff. And then he'll do the mainstream movies, but he's not like one of the main characters. Like you said, he'll be like the guy from Prometheus or something, you know.
Right, right. But in this,
Um
he is, he's the main one in this one, which I
right.
was very happy about.
Yeah.
I'm a big Guy Pearce fan.
Yeah. I like him too. Memento. Um some of the kind of indie movies that he's done over the past few years, like The Rover. I really liked him in The Rover, which was a kind of a post-apocalyptic movie. I think it was set in Australia. Robert Pattinson's in that one too.
He's Australian, isn't he?
He is Australian. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, did you see Animal Kingdom? Did you ever see that?
No.
That was an Australian movie about like a crime family, and he plays a cop in that movie. And that's a great movie. They turned it into a TV show, kind of changed it around, and made it American characters, I think. I never watched the show, but the movie is excellent. And now you got me wondering, like, what has he been doing recently?
So I remember him from, of course, Memento. That's the big one for me.
Of course.
And but another one that I always forget he was in, and he did an amazing job, and it was actually the first time I had seen him in a movie, was The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was good in that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the first Guy Pearce movie I saw was. I think it was it might have been County Monte Cristo, but L.A. Confidential, he's in that.
Yeah, and
I
I
can't
don't
remember
even
which
know.
one I saw first.
I don't know if I've seen LA Confidential all the way through.
That's a really good movie too. And then I know I saw Memento, not in theaters, but I saw it shortly after. Maybe it was a couple years after it came out. It's probably like 2002. I watched that movie.
Yeah, same with me, because it was released in 2000, right?
2000, yeah.
Yeah.
I know I had seen Guy Pearce recently, but I couldn't remember what it was, and it was that movie called Bloodshot, which came out early 2020 with Vin Diesel. Not a very good movie.
Oh.
Or I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was just okay, and he's kind of the villain in that too.
He seems to play the villain a lot.
He does seem to play the villain. He's they did a TV miniseries of A Christmas Carol. It was kind of supposed to be like a very dark version, and he played Ebenezer Scrooge.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I was gonna guess that he played Cratchit.
Bob Cratchit.
Oh, it's crazy we said it. Yes, Bob Cratchit. He would have been a really good Bob Cratchit.
Well, Guy Pearce, I feel like, is one of those actors who really would be a really good anybody in a Christmas Carol. Right. You know what I mean? Like he's just.
But to me, like when you said A Christmas Carol, my mind immediately went to Bob Cratchit. It's interesting, Scrooge though. But okay.
Yeah, it was a, like I said, a dark version of A Christmas Carol. I didn't see it, but I remember seeing trailers for it online.
Is it newer?
Yeah, it came out in.
Because when he was younger, I was going to say I could see him maybe playing a young Scrooge, but I guess
it came out in 2019.
Okay, yeah, he's getting up there in age.
Yeah, I don't know when. Let's see. He was born in. I don't know if this is important, but he was born in 1967, so he's in his 50s now.
Yeah.
Guy Pearce, good villain. This movie kind of sets it up as if you're going to have two villains. You have Aldrich Killian, which you know is,
Yeah, he comes across as the secondary villain.
Yes, and then you've got the Mandarin, played by Ben Kingsley, who they sort of teased. I don't remember if they teased him in the first movie, but I know they teased him in the second movie because of the Order of the Ten Rings and stuff. Like he's supposed to be Isn't he supposed to be like the leader of the Order of the Ten Rings or something?
I had no idea who the Mandarin was before this movie.
Gotcha. So similar. I had a similar experience, I guess you could say. The Iron Man is one of those characters who I knew who Iron Man was. I knew Iron Man was Tony Stark. I knew he wore a suit. And I knew he was an alcoholic. That's like and I knew he had a mustache. That was like the extent of my Tony Stark knowledge
That
before the
is
movies came out.
exactly to a T what my knowledge was.
So I did not know any of his villains. But I know, from reading when the movies came out, like the first two movies came out, there was talk of the Mandarin. And like I said, I think it's because of those Easter eggs, the Order of the Ten Rings kind of hints that they dropped here and there. So I knew of the Mandarin, but that was about it.
I had never even heard of him. Did they even mention the Mandarin in Iron Man 2 or the original? Or did they just talk about the rings?
I know, and I don't think they even like really said anything about the rings. I think there's a scene in Iron Man 2 where Mickey Rourke's character gets like the tickets to the Grand Prix race or whatever it is, that he crashes. And I think the guy that gives him the tickets, either it's like on the envelope, it says something about 10 rings or has like the 10 rings logo or something. I didn't really know anything. I knew I'd heard of the Mandarin, but I didn't know really anything about him. But according to his Wikipedia page, he is the arch enemy of Iron Man. So he is like the Lex Luthor of Iron Man,
Right.
I think.
Yes, I think after seeing the teaser or trailer, whichever, for Iron Man 3, I went and did a little research and found that out as well.
And one of the things I find interesting about it is that he was played by Ben Kingsley, kind of.
Why do you find that interesting?
Well, because I think, again, I always thought he was an Asian character. And just like I said, I didn't know much about him, but from what I had seen, and looking on his Wikipedia page, it says he was born to a Chinese father and English mother.
Oh, weird.
So
yeah, he does not come across in this movie as Chinese.
No, I was gonna say, I feel like if this movie, even though it's only 7 years old, I feel like there would have been a little bit more of an uproar nowadays if they had said, Ben Kingsley's playing the Mandarin.
Well, it's not just that; he's not even portrayed as a
No, he's not. Yeah,
Chinese.
yeah, you're right. He's no. It's like they change his character
He's
around a lot.
presented as a Middle Eastern terrorist.
Right, and I actually would say his background or whatever is almost kind of ambiguous too, because he kind of comes across as like a Middle Eastern terrorist, but he also has a bit of an American accent almost, and he's played by a British actor.
Yeah, I really like it's strange, like what Ben Kingsley does with the character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you almost have a sense of. I remember when I first saw it in the teaser, like I was like, that's interesting, but you almost feel like he's trying to be too unique and almost trying too hard. But I love it.
Yeah, I actually do too.
Yeah, I love the way the Mandarin talks, and it's really cool.
Let's go ahead and just spoil the reveal in the movie. So you find out that the Mandarin is actually not the Mandarin. He's just an actor named Trevor.
Right.
What did you think about that?
Technically, I guess there is no Mandarin. Like, he is the Mandarin, but he's just not real.
Right. Yeah. Right. So what did you think about that reveal when you saw it the first time? Yeah.
I liked it, and I remember reading so many people hated that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up right now, because I also liked it. But again, I didn't know anything about the Mandarin, and I had no, love for the character or anything. Right. So seeing Ben Kingsley play, and I just liked his portrayal as Trevor and everything. I really thought he was really good as Trevor.
Yes.
And so I really liked it too. But yeah, I remember seeing a ton of hate for the way the Mandarin was portrayed and turned into a joke essentially in this movie. And I was, at first I was like, oh, get over it. But then it's, if like Iron Man is one of your favorite characters and the Mandarin is his arch nemesis, that'd be like turning Lex Luthor into a joke or turning the Joker into a joke or something. Like I could understand being a little upset about that and like really being excited to finally see the Mandarin in a live action performance,
Right.
and then it's
Turning the Joker into a joke. That's funny.
so, yeah. Um, however, supposedly there is a real Mandarin out there.
Well, yes, but I mean, so you have Killian say,
I am
"I
the
am the
Mandarin.
Mandarin," but that's just words, in my opinion. Like
Right.
what I mean is, there's not a real Mandarin as the way that he's portrayed,
Right.
and the way that and who you envision the Mandarin being.
But supposedly there is a real Mandarin out there. And I'm not talking about Killian. There was, I can't remember if it was on this movie on the Blu-ray or if it was another Blu-ray, but Marvel used to do these shorts. They used to do these little short films that they'd include on the Blu-ray.
Okay.
And there was one called All Hail the King. And there was a what do you call it? There was like a hint towards the real Mandarin. I think it was this movie. I think it was this Blu-ray because I think Ben Kingsley was in it. And they were talking about how the real Mandarin was kind of upset with him calling himself the Mandarin. And there is a new Marvel movie coming out in 2021 called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And apparently Mandarin will be in that movie.
Huh.
The real Mandarin.
Interesting. Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought what you were saying by there is a real Mandarin you were talking
Was
about.
that? It was Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
Right. No, yeah. No, because he does. And that was the first time I saw the movie. I thought that was a little bit. I almost wish they hadn't included that. Like, I understand why they did it because, like you said, the Mandarin doesn't really exist in this film. Ben Kingsley is playing the Mandarin.
Yeah, it's like someone
Mandarin.
playing Santa Claus, and
Right.
they're like, "Well, I'm not Santa Claus. Let me show to
Right.
a
Yeah.
kid," and
Right.
then you're like, "Oh, well, there is no Santa Claus."
And so,
Spoiler alert to all of our 6-7-year-old listeners. Sorry.
Right. You just ruined their day. So yeah, but so then later on, Guy Pearce does call himself the Mandarin, and I remember thinking that's kind of weird. Like even the first time I saw it, even though had no love for the Mandarin, didn't even know much about him, I remember thinking that was a little strange. Like that Guy Pearce was, I guess, the Mandarin, even though I think he was just saying that. He was just saying, "I'm the one behind the Mandarin. I am the Mandarin." But yeah, I don't know. So really, essentially, Guy Pearce is the ultimate villain in this movie, not Ben Kingsley. But that's how in the trailers and the beginning of the movie made it seem, was that he was going to be the secondary villain and the Mandarin was going to be the main villain.
Right.
And I actually, like I said, even still, I think it's a great little twist. That the big bad of the movie is really a nobody.
I almost
like
feel
nothing.
like they revealed it too soon, because
they do reveal it kind of early.
Yeah, I wanted to see more of Ben Kingsley's quote unquote Mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
I just liked him, and he didn't do a whole lot. You've got him doing 2 hijacked feeds,
right,
and like one scene where he comes in to film one of the videos, and I think that's all you see of him.
I think so too. Yeah, the one of the hijacked feeds, he supposedly kills a guy on air.
Right.
We don't see it on screen, but you hear the gunshot and you see like the reaction of the president. And I know later on he says like it was green screen and special effects and stuff, but I'm like, is that how they just faked him shooting a guy on air? It seemed a little weird. It seemed like people would be able to see through that, but maybe not. Maybe the effects were good enough. We do live in takes place in a world where Iron Man exists.
Well, it doesn't show the shot.
No, it doesn't.
So maybe when they were filming him shooting the guy, they didn't actually have the guy in the
frame.
In the frame, yeah.
Maybe.
But then again, you also would think, why would Killian care about sparing someone like for?
Right, I don't see Killian caring at all about that, but I do see if Trevor's really just an actor.
Yeah,
I don't see him being willing to just pull the trigger and shoot somebody in the head, even though he is. I don't know. I mean, Yeah, I don't see that personally, but
No, you're right. That's a good point. That scene was pretty powerful, and I liked the president's reaction
mhm.
where everyone in the room was telling him,
You can't. Yeah.
yeah.
Don't
and
call.
and I understand their viewpoint that you
Right.
can't,
Negotiate.
yeah, because then you're just gonna open up doors for worse situations in the future. But at the same time, the president's like, we have a chance to save
Save
a
a life.
life,
Yeah.
and I'm going to take it because it's the right thing to do. He uses the words, it's the right thing to do.
Right. The president, by the way, played by William Sadler, who is also Death in the Bill and Ted movies. And
What?
yeah. Yeah. And he was also the bad guy, the main bad guy in Die Hard 2, whose name, the character name I can't remember.
I've
And
never seen Die Hard 2.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I haven't seen Die Hard 1.
You've seen Die Hard 1.
Yes.
We did a podcast on it.
We did, didn't we? But seriously, I haven't seen the second one. Or
Have you seen any of the other ones?
I haven't seen With a Vengeance, and I have not seen 4 and 5.
So you've only seen
I've only seen the original.
Wow. Well, you've seen the best one. But
I
think
I figured that.
you should definitely see 2 and 3. 4 and 5 you can kind of, I mean,
I'll pass.
4 has its, say what?
I'll pass.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're going to miss much. 4 has its moments. 5 doesn't have a whole lot of moments. But 2 and 3 are definitely worth watching. So yeah, William said, yeah, so he plays the president. And I like that scene too. I was thinking maybe, I wonder if, do you think they could have pulled it past Trevor to say that pull the trigger, it's going to look like you're killing that guy, but it's all fake. And they actually just convinced him to kill somebody on camera.
Can you imagine though? I think if he had figured it out after he pulled the trigger, his reaction,
Right. The president would be like, what did you expect to happen, Mandarin?
His mouth is just agape, and then it just cuts to color bars. They're like, cut it quick.
It actually would be great if because he's got that that low voice for being the Mandarin, and then he shoots the gun, and then he goes immediately into Trevor, and he's like, "Oh no!" He's British. Oh no!
You guys said it'd be fake.
That'd be great. One of the coolest scenes in the movie, in my opinion, is when so Happy gets injured. That's not one of the cool scenes, but Happy gets injured from an explosion that happens at the Chinese theater in Hollywood.
Right.
And and so Tony is obviously very upset about that and gives out his home address. And then the next day, the Mandarin shows up. Well, not the Mandarin himself, but the terrorists show up.
Dumb.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily mean in a plot sense, but at the same time, I kind of think it I mean, you got Tony Stark, and he's super egotistical.
Right.
So it is in character,
but
man, wow.
Dumb move.
Yeah.
Makes for a cool scene, though.
It does.
I love his I like his talk with Pepper where she's like, "We're leaving," and he just goes, "Nope." He's like, "Nope."
That scene actually is the one thing that stood out to me, and because was my second time seeing the movie, and whenever I would think about Iron Man 3, I always thought about his house being attacked, and that's the one thing I remembered.
It was a big moment. It was kind of the big moment in the trailers too, I think, too. Because I remember I don't remember if it was the end of the trailer, but I remember the big moment, or one of the big moments in the trailer, was his house pulling him down into the ocean and him being kind of caught up in the cables and stuff. which was exciting, I guess. He's going to survive. There's still an hour left in the movie, but at the same time, it was just kind of cool. But I like the explosion when the explosion happens, and he sends the armor onto Pepper. I think that's such a cool moment in the movie.
Agreed, and her reaction too. Like they did a really good job of having Gwyneth Paltrow, just her that moment of realization she has, and you can see it in her face. Like he does care,
right?
Like he's putting me above him.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great moment, and then she comes and repays the favor, which was
that was when she saves him. Yeah, I thought that's pretty sweet. I was a little confused, I guess, the first time I saw it, and I kind of talked myself into an explanation when I was watching it yesterday. But like, I thought the stuff he injected into him in the beginning of the film was what like the pieces of armor were attracted to. But I guess that's
what
actually.
I thought.
Well, if that's the case, then how does he send the armor to Pepper?
Yes.
She doesn't have those in her.
So it's like I guess a controlling device.
Yeah, I think it's just the way, because he has certain like poses that he pulls that kind of gives the suit information. So I think that pose that he pulled was saying go to Pepper, and like he does other poses and that tells him tells the suit to come to him.
That also says that he programmed that to be able to, if he needed to, protect Pepper.
Right. Yes.
Which says a lot too.
He had the foresight to think that potentially could happen sometime. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I like how once Pepper, Jarvis tells him that Pepper is out of the blast radius or whatever he says, and he does another pose and pulls all the armor off of her and puts it back on himself. And that's about the time when he goes down with the house. But although he does take out a few helicopters first.
Yes, but that was a great moment too.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of that, okay, I've saved the girl, now it's my turn. And that was really cool. The one note I wrote down was before this scene, and it's when Killian goes to Pepper basically to try to convince her to fund his
AIM.
Yes. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, if they knew, like, she had the big concern, like, about the potential of what it could do. And basically, when she turned him down, she opened up the doors for this technology to go into an infinite possibility of the wrong hands.
Right.
And I was thinking, even if she didn't agree with the potential, if she had funded it, she at least would have been able to have control over it.
Maybe so.
And I wonder,
she could have funded it basically to shelve it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wonder what kind of effect that would have had.
Well, it probably would have upset Killian.
Yes.
And I feel like he probably would have done exactly what he does to her in this movie, which is, although he's really trying to get back at Tony by taking Pepper, but he does kidnap Pepper and I don't know,
and salt and paprika.
Yes, and then he has a fine meal. No, he's. Does he inject them with extremis? Is that what he does? I was gonna say he injected her with extremis, but I was like, is that what they do? Do they inject the extremis into the people?
I think so.
I assume they do. And it takes to some people and it doesn't to other people. And that's what these mysterious explosions are, is when people get injected with extremis and their body rejects it, they essentially explode. Although I think there's another factor into the explosions, because the guy that James Badge Dale's character meets, who James Badge Dale, by the way, is an underrated actor in my opinion. When he meets him at the Chinese theater, that guy has had extremis for a while, but he is addicted to it or something. He can't regulate.
Is that the one? Is that the guy that explodes?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because I was gonna say his body didn't necessarily reject it. He was like in need of more. I think he was like dependent on it or something. So I don't know
Right.
if his body was because he hadn't gotten it, like his body then exploded. I don't know. But I remember they were saying like, "Can you regulate?" And they not being able to regulate was not tolerated. Was one of the things they said. But I forget what James Badgedale's character's name is, but James Badgedale I think is a really good actor, and I don't think he gets enough big roles. Savin was his character's name. James Badgedale, I think one of the first times I saw him, he was on the show 24, and then he was in the movie The Departed.
That's good. That's a good movie.
Yeah,
I've only
and
seen
then
that once.
you've only seen The Departed once. Wow, that's a great movie.
But I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like a 5-star movie for me.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And then he's done some stuff here and there. He was in that movie Flight with Denzel Washington. Did you ever see that?
I think so.
He was really good in
Yes,
that.
I did. That was a good movie too.
He was in 13 Hours, which I thought was pretty cool, which is a Michael Bay movie. The Walk with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That was a cool movie. So yeah, he's done a lot of stuff over the years, but he's never really kind of been like the at least not in the movies. He's done a show called Hightown. I don't know if he's a lead character on that or not, but he's never been like the leading man in a movie, and I think he needs to be because he's really good. So anyway, yeah. So Extremis, you get injected with it. Sometimes you blow up, sometimes you don't. And I guess if you don't, you can end up using it to heat things up.
Yeah, well, not just that.
Well, and regenerate your limbs. And
Regenerate
stuff.
your limbs. You have superhuman strength. Like
That's
you're
true.
basically a superior human.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. The main thing that they appear to use is they got like magma, like skin.
Yeah.
Basically, it's very strange.
It is strange, but it's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. Like I didn't like it. It's one of those things I remember the first time I watched it. I don't know how well I took it, but this
Yeah.
time I was fine with it. I didn't like the. I wasn't sure how I felt. Let me rephrase that. I didn't like it. I'm not sure how I felt about when he breathes fire, even though it's a cool thing, but it just I don't know the moment I think kind of took me away a bit.
I now that you mention it, like it's something that's never really bothered me, the breathing fire, and I like Don Cheadle's reaction to it. He's like, "Oh, you breathe fire," but you're right. The fact that he does that, but then doesn't do it again, like he doesn't do it in the last battle of the movie against Tony, does he? I don't think he does.
I don't remember it happening.
Yeah, so he's like he breathes fire in that one moment, but that you'd think he would utilize that against Tony, especially while Tony's flying around and stuff. You could breathe fire at him like a dragon. So yeah, it's the fact that they didn't kind of reuse that.
That's a good
later
point.
on. They shouldn't have put it in there. Probably.
Yeah, exactly. Like if they had reused that as I
That
might
was one of his powers.
yeah, then it might not have been as weird to me, but it's just kind of a weird moment.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Uh,
But I think it is saved by Don Cheadle's reaction though. That's the part that kind of saves that moment is him just being like, "Oh, you breathe fire, okay." But you're right. It is kind of weird.
Speaking of Don Cheadle and Rhodes, there is another moment with fire that I definitely can say I did not like. And that is the explosion where he swings. Who was it?
Oh,
Was
the
it,
president.
was it the president?
Yeah, the president is hanging up in the Iron Patriot armor, and he like swings down and grabs the president and swings off with him while there's like an explosion underneath.
And like fire's like massaging their back. Like, does that feel good? Yeah, that was too much for me.
Gotcha.
But that was really the only moment, and you really don't see those. I can't think of any others. I'm sure there's maybe a sprinkled amount here and there in MCU movies, but typically you don't have those moments. But this movie did have that one moment where I was like, nope.
A little bit of an eye roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the president, and that and the armor, that's something I really liked about this movie was how they went with the concept that just because you're seeing Iron Man or a suit there. They did it early, and they did it really well with Pepper talking to the
Mm-hmm. To
suit.
the suit. Yeah.
Um, but they do it again with Iron Patriot, and that's another thing I was breaking aside from where I'm going. I thought the whole thing between the War Machine name and the Iron Patriot with Tony Stark and Rhodes was hilarious.
Mm-hmm. I like that it comes up too with the kid later,
Yes,
and
that's
because
the
he
best
says something
one.
about War Machine, and he goes, "You mean Iron Patriot?" And he goes, "That's so much cooler."
Yeah,
And he goes,
he
"No, it's not."
exactly. Yeah, that was the icing on the cake right there. That line.
Yeah.
He's so mean to the kid. I was watching this with my daughter, and she's like, "He's mean." Like,
He is.
well,
I felt the same way. I was like, that kid's. It's a good thing that kid could take it because he is kind of mean to the kid a little bit.
the scene that she piped up about it was when he's in the car and the boy says he's cold.
Yeah.
He does like the lip thing. He's like, "Oh,
That
are
part cracked
you?"
me up though.
Yeah, it was pretty funny, but
He's
yeah,
like,
he
I
just drives
know.
off.
You know how I know? Because we're connected. He like drives off. Yeah, it's pretty great. I like a lot of the Tennessee stuff. That was the other note I wrote. I didn't write very many notes for this movie, but the other note I wrote was, actually, it doesn't have to do with Tennessee. I do like that I think he flies to Tennessee after the house falls
He doesn't
on.
fly. The suit
flies
him there.
That's what I was gonna say. I thought that was actually really cool that he's like asleep in the suit and
Yeah.
it's flying him to Tennessee. But I do like his reaction too when he's like, "Where are we?" And he's like, "Rose Hill, Tennessee." And
Yeah.
he goes, "Why?"
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but the note I wrote was he gets from Tennessee to Miami seemingly very quickly, and he has no suit to fly. So I assume he drove. So I looked it up. According to the character in the movie, it is 832 miles from Rose Hill, Tennessee to Miami.
And there's a reason he asks that.
Because his
He wants to know
his
how
suit
long
is
it's going to
coming to him.
take his suit
Yeah.
to get there. Yeah.
Which does not take very long. So those suits are going.
It doesn't, but it takes longer than he thinks.
Yes, it does. Right. Yeah. Which is also the comedy in this movie is actually pretty good. I mean, the
It
comedy
is
in all
good.
of the Iron Man movies are pretty good, or with Robert Downey Jr. is good. But,
Yes, and I was actually going to make that comment too. Was with Iron Man 2, Iron Man 1 was awesome, and the comedy in it's fantastic. Never feels forced or whatever. I felt like Iron Man 2, to a degree, did a little bit of the forced, oh, the first one we had all these wisecrack comments and everything, and we got to make sure we have these in here
Yeah.
and try to outdo them. I felt that way. I don't remember in the podcast of Iron Man 2 if I felt that way or not. So maybe rewatching Iron Man 2, it didn't come across as much. But Iron Man 3, it doesn't feel that way. It's all good comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Not
I agree.
Not in your face, not forced, just the right level.
Right, and that moment of him waiting on his armor to arrive does make me laugh because he's like, "Here he goes." He's like, and the two guards are like, I don't remember what they say, but their quips are pretty funny too. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah."
So anyway, my note was him getting to Miami, but if it's 832 miles away and he drives at 70 miles an hour, it would take him a little under 12 hours. So I guess it's possible that he got there as fast as he did. It seems like it's just a few hours later or something, but I guess it could be. I mean, he would have to stop for gas occasionally. But it's also Tony Stark, and I could see him driving faster than 70 miles an hour.
So can I.
So I don't know. Maybe it's not as far-fetched as I was originally thinking, because I think it cuts from him in Tennessee trying to fix the suit or something to, or no, he's building all his little gadgets and stuff, which maybe he did that on the road too, because he is in the car when he's talking to the kid and he has another anxiety attack. And the kid says, "Well, you're a mechanic, build something." And then it shows him shopping for all the parts and everything. So maybe he's doing that not in Tennessee. He's doing that in Georgia somewhere. Maybe he's on his way to Miami or something. But it shows him building those items, and then he's in Miami. So it just seemed like it was a very quick. It seemed to me like it was portrayed as being a very quick trip, basically.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
they could have fixed that with a couple scenes with them kind of having a back and forth dialogue, like in the car on the interstate or
Right?
something.
Yeah, something. I don't. And maybe they did, and they cut it out. I don't know.
Right, that's what I was thinking. Because I mean, it's not that long a movie. What was it? 2 hours and 18 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it was even that much. I think it was like 2 hours and 10 or something like that.
And you could have just had like a quick minute scene of that.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
Well, I was going to mention, I was going to continue with the where they went with the suits and not having them. I thought it was really cool moment where they made Iron Patriot like a threat,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
he goes in and they're just
He just walks right on Air Force One because
Yeah.
everybody assumes it's
that it's Rhodes, Colonel
Yeah.
Rhodes.
Mhm.
And they even ask him, like he goes in there and they could just tell something's off, and one of them goes, "Is there something wrong, Colonel Rhodes, or something?" And
Yeah.
that's where he like blasts and the hole goes in the side, and
Side of the
everyone
plane.
starts getting sucked out.
Which, by the way, I love that scene. I'm glad you brought that up. I almost forgot about that. The whole having to catch 13 people.
Yes,
I think that was really well done. I really like that scene a lot.
I do and I don't,
Okay.
because I don't know if I'm not I don't know like the science of it, but I feel like if someone were to catch someone like that, I don't know, they're all falling at the same speed too. I was gonna say I felt like there would have been some damage done to like their limbs or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, skydivers, I think there's skydivers out there, groups of skydivers who, grasp onto each other and stuff as they're falling, but they're
but
falling quickly at each other.
And I think too that Iron Man, was it Iron Man that saves him? Yeah, it was.
Yeah. He's just not in the suit. We're meant to think he is,
right,
but he's not in
yes,
the suit.
again,
Yeah,
they do that
yeah.
a lot in this movie.
Mhm.
And it's not bad. Like it's an interesting. It's just a constant reminder of you don't with
You never know.
new
Right.
technology, there's things that you can do that you just don't know. But I felt like maybe a couple times there, just the way they're caught, it's like he's level and then they're caught, and they don't give, with the gravity. Yeah, it's just like it catches them, and then they like, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't. It doesn't bother me. The only thing that I think might be a little far fetched in that scene. Well, I'm sure there's maybe like you said, there's a lot of stuff far fetched in that scene. I don't know, but the thing that strikes me as far fetched in that scene is him saying he's gonna like electrify their hands so that way they can't like loosen their grip.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, he basically tells the first lady that he catches, that she reach out and grab this other fallen guy, and he says, "I'm gonna I can't remember exactly the line, but he says, "I'm gonna electrify your hand. You won't be able to open your hand." So he basically sends like shocks through their system, so that way their hands are tightened and they can't let go of anything.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't like that.
But,
I wish with the first lady, when he says that to her, like, and then he does it, like, you just heard a, and she just turns into like a pile of ash, and her hair's like,
like,
right.
okay, that's not gonna work. I still like that scene though. I think it's pretty fun.
No, don't get me wrong. I do like it too. But there's some give and take with it.
Yeah, I get it. So let's jump to the end of the movie and talk about the house party protocol, which is where he basically gets all of his suits to come to him and help with the fight, which they're all being controlled by Jarvis, I assume.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool.
Yes.
And we get to see a lot of different suits, which I thought was kind of neat. We saw kind of a our. I would say, in my opinion, it's kind of like the beginnings of the Hulkbuster suit.
Yes.
You know, that one that
He's like underneath the big thing.
yeah
Yeah, I saw that and
container.
I was like interesting. Yeah, because this was before Age of Ultron.
Yes, yep. So that was like kind of a glimpse at the Hulkbuster suit. There was also one that has like I don't even know what they're called, but the arms were big and they like had hydraulics or something that like got shot down into the ramp that these guys were on and send them into the air and stuff. So it was like each suit had its kind of own primary use, I guess you could say, and they were all really interesting. It's funny because I would assume all those would be like Mark 20, 30, whatever, and so Mark 42 is kind of the one that he wears throughout the movie. Is similar more so towards the early suits. It's not anything like these middle suits. So I'd be curious to see or hear why when he got to Mark 42, he didn't make that one different and kind of made it.
Well, I would assume that the original suit is good just for an all-around use.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were saying, these other suits have certain aspects and like features that make them kind of important for a certain situation or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
But the traditional Iron Man suit is just kind of like his go-to for, lots of things.
Yeah. I agree.
And maybe that's just the upgrade. It's just the upgraded version of the original concept.
That could be. Yeah. I can see that. Um, I like that whole last scene too with, the fight with Killian, and him kind of going from suit to suit. I really like that. And I really liked when he calls the Mark 42 suit and it's this big, it's kind of a big moment where you see the suit really far away starting to come. And I think Killian is like, is that? And he's like, I think Tony's like, you better believe it type of thing. And then right when it gets close, it like hits the side of the ramp or something and like just kind of falls apart. And he's like, and Tony Stark just goes, whatever. He's like, I'm done. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, the multiple suit thing was really cool, and it leads well into Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, it's interesting because he does destroy all the suits at the end.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. I mean, I also want to talk about Pepper. What did you think about Pepper kind of saving the day at the end of the movie there? She's got the extremis, and she's the one that essentially kills Killian.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, she's got the powers. I've meant to bring that up earlier. We were talking about him breathing fire and stuff. I was kind of intrigued that he even used it on himself with the risk of
Exploding.
him exploding. But yeah, he injects her with it, and yeah, she has the powers as well. I liked it.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's kind of a cool play off. She's essentially the damsel in distress. When she gets kidnapped and whatnot, and Tony's trying to save her. So it's kind of cool, little play on that she ends up being the one to kind of save the day and stop the bad guy in the end. So yeah, I thought it was cool. I liked it. So now let's talk about the suits. He gets the shrapnel taken out of his chest, and then he does the clean slate protocol, which is where... Well, actually, I guess the clean slate protocol happens before he gets the shrapnel out of his chest. It happens while they're still at the boat yard or whatever it's called, the shipping yard, right? Doesn't it happen there?
Yes.
Yeah, so he destroys all the suits there once Pepper's safe and everything. I find that interesting because it's the end of this movie really does, and then he gets the shrapnel taken out. The movie kind of sets it up as like he's done being Iron Man.
Yep, it does. I was thinking the same thing, and then at the end it says, "Iron Man will return."
Right, and he does in Age of Ultron,
right.
And it's been a little bit since I've seen Age of Ultron, but I don't feel like there's any talk of him quitting being Iron Man or anything. He's just... Oh, no, there's not. I remember how Age of Ultron opens. It opens up with the team in whatever country they're in, um, like it's like in the snow and everything. It's got that hero shot
Oh
of all
yeah,
of them
that's
coming
right.
into the. And so he's just flying around as Iron Man right at the beginning of the movie. So I mean, they just completely kind of ignore the end of this movie, in my opinion.
It's weird
It is weird.
because I liked the end of this movie. I thought it was
Hmm.
what I remembered of Iron Man 3. Like I said, I didn't really remember a whole lot. I completely forgot Guy Pearce was in it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I remembered the Mandarin, but I didn't remember how Kingsley did the character. And I remember when I first heard him talk, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Um, yeah, there was a lot of Iron Man 3 I did not remember at all. And I thought I remembered not liking it that much. Like I thought it was okay. Like, it was a MCU movie, which meant that it was a good movie,
Right.
but it didn't necessarily stand out to me as one of the better ones.
Right.
Um, but watching it this time, I wouldn't necessarily say it's in the top area, but I definitely enjoyed it, and I thought that it wrapped up the Iron Man story very well.
Hmm.
But like you said, in Age of Ultron, they completely ignore that, and not only that, but there's so much more with Iron Man after Age of Ultron.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's like you could almost watch because in the beginning of Infinity War, he's talking with Pepper and he's got that thing on his chest, which is like the whatever that the suit is in. And I feel like they might have a little bit of a conversation of her being like, "I thought you were done with this," and he's like, "This is just for protection," type of thing. And it's like you could almost watch Infinity War right after this movie, and that would make sense. But you had Age of Ultron, Civil War, Spider-Man: Homecoming. You had all these movies with Iron Man in it in between these two movies that they don't even talk about him quitting being Iron Man and then
Right.
deciding to come back to it. He just comes back to it.
And in Age of Ultron and Civil War, like he's one of the main characters. Like
Hmm.
he's technically, I wouldn't say cameo in Spider-Man, but he's like almost less than a secondary character, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he's like the mentor in Spider-Man:
Right.
Homecoming.
But
But he's not like
he's
one of the main characters like he is in Civil War and
but
Ultron.
even as a mentor, he's not in it that much. Like you hear his voice, I
Hmm.
think, more than anything. I could be wrong. I might not be remembering it right, but um yeah, in Age of Ultron and Civil War, he's like one of the top three people in the
Right.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but aside from that, if they had made this the wrap up of Iron Man, I thought it would have been a good wrap up.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a good wrap up. It's just one that they ignore, I guess, in future movies. So, one last thing I kind of want to talk about was the music of the movie. One of the thing that kind of bugs me, I guess, about the Iron Man movies is that uh, each one has a different score. There's not like a Iron Man theme that is heard throughout each film, which
Right.
could be maybe the case for a lot of the Marvel characters. But the first one was done. The music was done by Ramin Djawadi, if I'm saying that right. The second one I think was John Powell, and then the third one, this one was done by Brian Tyler. And I really like the music in this movie. I almost wish that the Brian Tyler had done all three. Not that I didn't like the music in the other two, but this one I just think he has a cool theme in the movie and everything. And then I really like the movie at the end credits too. That little kind of almost '60s kind of sounding fun little tune that they play over the credits. But yeah, I like the movie in this movie. I like the music in this movie, and it would have been cool if they had used kind of that theme throughout the series, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I can't think of the music, but I do agree that it would have been nice if they'd kind of established a theme for Iron Man.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, maybe in the reboot.
Maybe, yeah, maybe in the reboot they'll have an Iron Man theme. So this was the first movie after Avengers, and Marvel had established that all of their movies were pretty much going to have post-credit scenes. And this is one of the only Marvel movies I can think of where I was a little disappointed by the post-credit scene, because up until this moment, I think all the post-credit scenes, except for maybe, Avengers included, teased at future movies, basically. I remember at the end of Iron Man 2, it was Coulson in New Mexico finding Thor's hammer. At the end of Captain America, we got a teaser for the Avengers. But at the end of Avengers, you got Thanos. I'm trying to remember what the one at the end of Thor is. But anyway, this one is just Tony Stark talking to Bruce Banner as if Bruce Banner is his therapist, and Bruce Banner is annoyed with him, and that was pretty much it. So it was like we did get a post-credit scene, but at the same time, you're almost like, I sat through the credits for that. It was nothing.
Kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy
With Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck.
Was that the only post-credit scene in Guardians, or was there a mid-credit scene? Because that's Marvel started doing that. They started doing these mid-credit scenes and then post-credit scenes, and
maybe
post-credit scenes started to have, they were like basically a joke. I think Avengers started that, because the mid-credit scene in Avengers was Thanos, and then the post-credit scene was them eating shawarma, if you remember that, which was hilarious, and I liked that one. And then, so I'm wondering if there was one after Guardians. Yeah, there was. It was when they, that was Thor. I don't know. I forget. I'd have to go back and look at it. But yeah. I was thinking it had to do with Benicio's character, the Collector, but that was actually at the end of Thor: The Dark World.
Howard the Duck is in Endgame, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is. I
think he's one of the characters in the background.
Yeah, that comes back like once Hulk snaps and all the characters come back. I think he's in that scene.
Do you think that they were planning on maybe doing a Howard the Duck movie?
I wouldn't be surprised if they were talking about it. I wouldn't be surprised if they're still talking about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And they may have pushed it back or decided it was not a good idea or something. I don't know. But I think James Gunn included him just because he liked Howard the Duck. And so I don't know if the Russo brothers put him in Endgame just because...
Yeah.
Just to have an Easter egg,
Right. Like, hey, remember the end credits?
Right.
Like, here he is.
But yeah. So, John, what would you rate Iron Man 3?
I give it 4 out of 5.
Yeah. That's exactly where I'm leaning. 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's, like you said earlier, I think it's it doesn't necessarily fall into the top of the Marvel films, but it is better than I remember.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely better than Iron Man 2, but not quite as good as Iron Man 1.
Well, yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
But I do think it's enjoyable. I think it's a lot of fun, and I do think it's a good Marvel movie. There's been so many good Marvel movies that it's not... I don't think it quite breaks the top 5 or anything.
Yeah, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Iron Man 3 is kind of a tossed away movie that people don't really think about, or
I don't feel like it's talked about much when people talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't feel like there's a couple movies that didn't do as well. Thor: The Dark World is one of them. The Incredible Hulk maybe is another one. And I don't know if Iron Man 3 falls into that or not, but you're right. I don't hear much talk about Iron Man 3 like you do hear about maybe some of the other Marvel movies from time to time. I don't know. I liked it, though. I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with you. I liked it. I don't remember, I remember being okay with it the first time I watched it, but this time it was enjoyable. So if you've only seen Iron Man 3 once,
give it another watch.
Yeah, it might surprise you.
It might. And after you do that, let us know what you think about it. We'd love to hear from you. You can leave us a comment on cinemaheroes.com. You can also leave us a comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/SM and SM podcast. You can tweet at us at CinemaHeroes. Our Instagram handle is the same thing. Or if you're watching this video on YouTube, you can leave us a comment on YouTube. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. We'd really appreciate it, and we'd love to hear from you. I think that about wraps it up for this episode. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.